Dr. Redfield here to present my newest theory that pinball is punk rock, and by playing pinball, you yourself are joining part of the first anti-authoritarian revolution of gaming ever. Now, for you, the viewers at home, to understand what I'm talking about, I'm going to do a brief history on pinball and a briefer history on punk rock, and you will see where the correlations lie. I didn't even know I liked it until recently. I'd won a couple of competitions, I'd won a couple of digital pinball machines. Next thing I know, I did some research and found out some things, and I'd like to share with you. The first original pinball machine was in the 1700s in France. It was the bagatelle machine. A ball would go up, and it would come down a table, hitting little metal pins along the way, and you would mentally keep track of points. That's where they came up with the pinball machine. So what that means is originally the machines were not a game of skill, but a game of chance. Now, it wasn't officially invented until 1871 by a gentleman named Montague Redgrave with his patent on the improvement on the bagatelle. In the 1940s, Gottlieb invented the first table with flippers, though they were inverted and flipped backwards, but it was the Humpty Dumpty table, and now this put the game into the player's hands. There was updates to the electronics and the hardware and lights and buzzers and whistles and scorekeeping, but once the game created a coin option, it changed everything. It allowed for gambling. It was viewed as having mafia connections and other legal activities, so after the slot machines went, pinball was next. Then just a couple of weeks after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, Mayor LaGuardia, yes, Mayor LaGuardia, who they named that airport after, he went on this righteous spree and got pinball banned. LaGuardia actually had machines rounded up, smashed with sledgehammers, and thrown into the river in his entire righteous movement. So that's right, yes, a couple of weeks after Pearl Harbor was bombed, this is the podium that this man wanted to die on. Okay. He thought that they were literally stealing the nickels and dimes from pockets of school children. I mean, it wasn't just enough to put a time restriction, like he couldn't be caught playing pinball during school hours. They just straight up banned it because they thought pinball was the devil. So that meant that other cities then followed in suit. So not only was New York, but you had Chicago, San Francisco, Detroit, all these other major cities across the country were banning pinball machines. So now the only place you could play them were in underground seedy clubs or in pornographic studios, like behind a curtain like a pervert. So then it became this self-fulfilling prophecy where they said, well, only the bad people play pinball, and we're going to make it really difficult for you to play pinball because you had to be skipping school or be in some underground bar or be in some place you weren't supposed to be, so it just became a self-perpetuating cycle. So, I mean, Hollywood perpetuated the myth as well. Just the appearance of a pinball machine would portray to the audience that one was a bad guy or a villain or shifty or couldn't be trusted. Hell, even Arthur Fonzarelli played pinball because he was a rebel, man. That's just how they viewed it. So we had to look at it like this. Pre-World War II, the pinball machine was cheap, fun entertainment. Then World War II happened, and most factories that made pinballs shut down. The aluminum and the copper were needed for military manufacturing. Then post-World War II happened, and it was demonized. It was viewed as a mafia connection. And this went on for 30 years, until in the 70s. Pinball wizard by the name of Roger Sharp took a couple of machines and pretty much Babe Ruth the shot. You know how Babe Ruth pointed to the stands and then hit a home run to that spot? Roger Sharp went to the New York Gaming Boards or some kind of commission, and he Babe Ruthed it. He said he was going to make the pinball do this, this, and this, and he made it do this, this, and this, proving that it was no longer a game of chance, but it was a game of skill. Man, that Roger Sharp, he's got that Frank Zappa looking mustache, doesn't he? I am the walrus, coo-coo-ca-choo. So when The Who came out with the Tommy album in 1969, it was more than just a nerdy little kid who just wanted to play pinball. This was the first moment that they had a character who was like, fuck you to the man. Pinball was banned at this point, so when Tommy, the deaf, dumb, blind kid, was playing pinball, it was illegal. Now let's talk about punk rock for a moment. We know that punk rock started in the 1960s and the 70s, and I'm not going to debate as to whether it started in the UK or in the United States, the Sex Pistols or the Ramones. That's not what this is about. The debate I want to have right now is American punk rock getting started with American pinball, and it was all happening in New York City. You had bands like the Dictators, Blondie, the Stooges, the Ramones, Velvet Underground. Guys, Debbie Harry was a pinball junkie, and Joey Ramone was always looking for a machine to play. Even in current years, we've been having punk rock bands make songs about pinball machines. You had DFX make the song called Tilt, using footage for their music video from the 1979 film called Tilt, which was about, you guessed it, pinball. Pinball became legal in New York City in the mid-70s. Punk rock got its big drive here in the States in New York City in the mid-70s. You can't tell me that these little kids who are going to be the punk rockers of the future growing up in New York City weren't the ones playing the pinball machines. But no, the real basis of my theory is that by playing pinball, you are following in a long tradition of breaking the rules, not listening to anybody, and saying, "Fuck you." Thinking back now, I kind of remember a Simpsons episode where Sideshow Bob made a joke saying, "Television has ruined more young minds than pinball and syphilis combined." So yes guys, in my opinion, a pinball machine will rot your brains. The tension, the focus, the mental anguish necessary to get that high score, because that's what we're all after, is that high score. You want to be able to put your initials on the glass and say, "That was me." So this has been Dr. Redfield telling you, find a machine, drop in some quarters, pull back that plunger, and say, "F the man," because that's how you play. Play and slay. Play until dead. Here's my leather jacket. I just want to go, hey. Flippity flip flip flip.